Welcome back, everyone. Time to see how poor old Max Luserman is faring during the final third of his one painful year. On day 251, I decided to go and fetch a fire truck I had seen during a previous burn. Unsurprisingly, the truck wasn't in usable shape, so I had to steal a quality battery and some gas from some of the other cars in the parking lot. The local zombie population did not like me trying to steal their fancy red truck and kept interrupting my work. Eventually though, I was able to drive it back to base. I'm not sure when I'll find the use for it, but it's still nice to have. Once back at base, I wanted to deal with the black line on the ground that had been left when I broke down the walls. I even went to the workshop to look for a mod I knew existed that would let me clean it off the floor, and was surprised to discover that past me had already thought of this and included it in the game already. So I used a mop and some bleach to clean the lines off the floor. I then went about cleaning the grime off of as many walls as I could until the bleach ran out. With some time left in the day, I started with what I eventually came to think of as Project Locust, moving through the various apartments, dismantling everything I could for the precious carpentry XP. I needed to get to the next level of carpentry for my future plans that I have. Day 252 was another day of Locust work. Max spent most of the day tearing through the various bits of furniture in the apartment for XP. He did take a bit of a detour at one point down to the first floor to deal with a couple of zombies that had wandered into the building. The knocking noises they were making were getting annoying while he was trying to Locust. The next day, more controlled destruction. I'm open to the possibility that this is a very inefficient way to level carpentry, but I wanted to loot the rest of the building anyway, so it serves a double duty. In the evening, while tearing my way through the third floor, I was startled by a zombie that had managed to make its way up 3 flights of stairs. The shock of that zombie on the third floor led me the next day to do a bit of a patrol to look for more zombies in the proximity of the base. After clearing most of them out, I backtracked through a few of the other buildings I had already looted. I was in the market for some more bleach in order to clean off the rest of the apartment's walls. On my way back to the base, I also collected some more shelving, so I would have a place to put all the loot we were accumulating. I was still a little burned out, no pun intended, from all the burns we ran recently, and I needed a break from the locusting, so I decided to load up the shotgun and head out for a little alternative clearing method. The shotgun method of clearing is always a bit more fraught than doing a burn, but it does have the added benefit of not accidentally burning down the neighborhood. During the shotgun rampage, I managed to get 2 levels of aiming. We're now to the point in leveling aiming that the XP gain slows way down. I doubt Max will get another level of it in the time remaining. Later in the day after the shooting had finished, I checked on the farm and discovered a bunch of veggies that needed harvesting. On the morning of day 256, I noticed that Max had somehow lost his keyring. I must have dropped it at some point while I was looting. I spent a few in-game hours running from room to room that I had previously dismantled looking for it. It then dawned on me that I was recording all of this, and I could just go back and check the footage and see where I had left it. It turned out that I had left it on a shelf in the apartment. After retrieving the keychain, I grabbed one of the trucks and headed over to the previously cleared community center. I had to clear some new zombies that had wandered into the area, but my real goal of being here was collecting more of the various plants and interesting flooring from around the center to take home and personalize the base a bit more. I spent the next couple of days just locusting through the base. The amount of XP was low, but it was nice and steady, and it allowed me to make sure I wasn't missing any important piece of loot. At the end of day 258, I checked on the farm to see if there was anything that needed harvesting. Nothing so far. On day 259, I decided to continue on my goal of clearing out March Ridge. I had a decent part of the east side of March Ridge thinned out, but certainly hadn't cleared it. So I traveled over to the far corner, intent on doing another shotgun rampage, but discovered the church was still on fire from a burn I had done a long time ago. So I combined the two, using the shotgun to help pull the zombies in, and then burning them out. Once the burning and shooting was done, I did a bit of light looting and returned home with 2 flamingos to add to my flock. The next day was more shotgun shenanigans. While wandering around, I had noticed the zombies to the west of the building had started to build up again, so I went to the school parking lot to gather up a group and deal with them. It took most of the day, and I even had a second group decide to show up a while after I thought it was done for the day, but the population on the side of the building was now much thinner. Day 261 was back on the Locusting, and I demolished a few more apartments for that sweet, sweet XP. I spent day 262 over at the corpse pile in the school parking lot. I was looking for electronic things to dismantle, and when I was satisfied that I'd found most of them, I spent some time ripping up clothes for cloth. I haven't set aside time for it yet, but at some point I want to grind tailoring a bit more. I spent so much of the day there that by the afternoon Max was suffering from corpse sickness from being around all the dead bodies. 263 was more constructive destruction. Day 264 and time for a road trip. I had previously mentioned that I had plans for the big truck we found, and today we put them into action. I started driving with my sights set on the military store in a town northwest of Rosewood. With the Sunday driver trait, however, it would take all day. Passing through Rosewood was a little bit hairy in places, but all in all, the trip wasn't too bad, just very slow. I stopped short of the town I was heading for to sleep in a farmhouse. I had to kill a number of zombies before the area was safe enough. In the fog the next morning, I hopped back in the truck and drove up to the town and the military surplus store. I'd hoped to not have to resort to it, but the population was too high for me to effectively deal with, so I broke out the Molotov and started a burn. After dealing with the locals, I spent some time inventorying the store and seeing what there was to take with us. I had to break out the sledgehammer to get access to the back room where the guns and ammo was kept. In the evening, I moved a cot into the closet and slept in there. I spent the first half of day 266 collecting all the stuff I had wanted from the store and loading it into the truck. My original plan for this trip involved traveling all the way up to Riverside before heading home, but I'd forgotten how mind-numbing it is to drive long distances with Sunday Driver. So I cut off the road trip early and headed for home. I only made it as far as just outside of Rosewood where I stopped for the night, fighting a few zombies before bedding down in a small house. I traveled a different way back home the next morning, going past Rosewood towards the Muldrug Crossroads. When almost at the crossroads, I took a detour up to the group of warehouses north of the road. I was hoping to do some decent looting, but the locals didn't appreciate my presence, and I didn't have a Molotov. I grouped them up as best I could and moved them away from where I wanted to loot. I still had a few to fight in the end, but most of the group was out of the way. I only really got to loot one warehouse, didn't find too much of value besides a new garden fork. With the zombies closing in on me, I hopped back in the truck and drove the rest of the way home. Upon getting home, there was a number of veggies that needed harvesting. Then it was a nice bath in the rain barrels, a salad, and bedtime. Day 268 was a bit of a change in strategy. I knew I wanted to reach another level of carpentry and another level of electrical. I also wanted to clear the eastern side of March Ridge. I had a feeling that my locusting strategy wasn't a very good way to achieve the levels I wanted, so I went online and found a chart of how much XP you get per item dismantled. Now the amount I get is less than this due to my slow learner trait, but it did show me that beds and big dressers are by far the best XP per item. So instead of spending time dismantling my way through our apartment building, I headed out to the townhouses closest to the base. I then went house to house dismantling the beds, big dressers, lamps, TVs, and any random electrical items I found in the drawers. I also occasionally had to fight a zombie or two that was still lurking in the houses. The next day was a continuation of the day before, working my way down the most northern street in March Ridge. In the evening, I spent some time finally putting up all the various pictures I had snagged for my road trip. Day 270 was more house clearing, this time focused on the remaining townhouses that I had started on day 268. The zombie population was thankfully late, but still present enough to give me the occasional jump scare when entering a room. Back at base in the evening, I worked to get through all the veggies I had harvested. I was doubtful I could make it before they rotted. The next morning on day 271, I took a little break from the controlled clearing to do a bit more chaotic clearing. I went to the near west side of March Ridge with my shotgun and started blasting. As per usual, it took most of the day to eventually clear out all the zombies that came to investigate the sound of the shotgun. While I had stopped the locusting, I still wanted to finish looting the building. So I spent day 272 going through more of the remaining apartments, checking their loot, and just dismantling the high-value furniture, like beds and the big wardrobes. The next morning, I was back out on the mean streets of March Ridge, clearing houses and dismantling furniture. I was able to make through another street. I started to mark the map showing where I had been. I was using the circle instead of the X because the houses weren't really looted properly. They had just been processed to furniture I wanted to dismantle. Day 274 was more house cleaning. It seemed like on this stretch, every house had at least one zombie hanging around in it. Next day, more clearing. More zombies and more stuff to take home. This day I got a lawn gnome to take home. The hallway leading up to the apartment was getting to have a very nice feel to it. More clearing on day 276. Zombies were a little thicker this close to the edge of town. On day 277, I realized I had never really properly looted the zombies from my last shotgun rampage, so I headed over to the western side of town to look through the bodies for watches and other electronic devices to dismantle. I did dismantle a couple things in the houses close to the rampage area since I was already there. Day 278, more clearing. I was able to get through almost all of the remaining houses over here. The townhomes in the lower eastern corner still remained, however. On my way back to the house, a small group of zombies had appeared in the area I thought was clear. I showed them the way out before heading home for bed. I began working on the townhouses on day 279. There were a lot of zombies still trapped in these buildings. I thought I had gotten most of them, but when approaching the next in line of the townhouses, the zombies came pouring out in large numbers. It took poor old Max quite a while to work his way through all of them. In one of the parking lots, I found another car in good condition. I don't need it right now, but it's nice to know it's there. When heading back to the townhouses on day 280, I came across a few zombies near the church. I broke out the pistol in order to clear them out, thinking that the area had been mostly well cleared already. It turned out I was wrong, and a bunch more zombies showed up. I used up all the ammo I had on hand and had to switch to using my garden fork. It took me a long time to work my way through the whole group. But I did still have time in the afternoon to process a few more houses. Rather than go all the way back, I bedded down in one of the townhouses for the night. I worked my way through another line of townhouses on day 281. East side of March Ridge was almost finished, and my carpentry and electrical XP bars were very slowly filling up. On my way back to the townhouses in the morning, I stumbled across another small group of zombies and started blasting them with the pistol. Thankfully, this time the number of adds was manageable. After clearing them out, it was back to dismantling. Day 283, I finished working my way through the east side of March Ridge. It was mostly straightforward dismantling of the final row of townhouses, but there were a few houses I had missed. One of these actually turned out to be a barricaded house. And I actually found my first katana of the run in this house. I doubt it'll get much use, but cool to see. Now that half of March Ridge was cleared, I turned my attention to finish clearing out the building our apartment was in. Because I was only dismantling a few things in each apartment, I was able to finish off the second floor. That left only the first floor remaining to do, and that floor was already had a few apartments looted when I was doing things more haphazardly. Day 285, and I wanted a bit of the old adrenaline, so I busted out the shotgun and headed to the west side of March Ridge to start clearing out over there. In addition to the shotgun, I also decided to switch my sidearm up a bit for a stronger gun. I switched from the M36 pistol to the M625 revolver, which used 45 instead of 38 special of the M36. During the shotgun rampage, Max hit the next level of reloading. I had a bit of time after the shooting was finished to dismantle my way through a couple of houses before heading home. I started dismantling and looting my way through the first floor of the building on day 286. This was a bit slower than the second floor had been, because I started taking the planks I made from dismantling the beds and the wardrobes to barricade the windows in each apartment. We were kind of past the point where I needed to defend this building, but it still felt like the right thing to do. On day 287, in order to clear up more of the west side of town, I took the shotgun and a Molotov and had a nice walk around the neighborhood with a big crop of burning zombies. While I wasn't really sure as of yet, I imagine I lost a number of houses doing things this way. The shotgun didn't keep them as tightly packed as I wanted them to be, so some of the burning zombies probably wandered off into the various houses. The next day was back to dismantling and barricading the first floor. That work continued for the next couple of days. On day 290, I finally finished. You may be asking yourself why this has taken so long. A big part of the problem is that all thumbs makes taking things out of cabinets or picking things up into my inventory take 400% longer. Since I have to empty out the wardrobes before I can dismantle them, and then pick up the planks to barricade, it adds up. I headed back to the western neighborhoods to keep up my dismantling job. I took a swing through the school that I'd previously looted. The tables in the cafeteria weren't super high value in terms of XP, but they were tightly packed, so it was quick and easy. Afterwards, I went back into the houses near one of the shotgun rampages to do some dismantling. I was almost killed while going upstairs in one of the houses. I was surprised to find a bunch of zombies in this house on the second floor. They were so numerous that they ended up spilling out onto the street, where I finished them with a pistol. I have no idea how they managed to just hang around upstairs in this house while I was right outside blasting away with my shotgun. Day 292 was a pretty straightforward day of dismantling a few houses on the near west side of March Ridge. The following day I headed into the neighborhoods intending to work on a few more houses, but discovered that, as I had thought, stuff was still on fire. So instead I used the fire to do a burn and hopefully clear out a big chunk of the zombies remaining in these few blocks of town. While dismantling my way through houses on day 294, I found a weird bear pelt hat. It's added by the Authentic Z mod, but it is something I've never come across before. I dismantled stuff for the rest of the day and slept in one of the bedrooms rather than make my way back to the apartment. More dismantling the next day, and at the end of the day when I had returned to the apartment, I sadly had to remove the bear hat, as it was extremely warm and making Max overheat. While in the western neighborhood on day 296, I ended up with way too many zombies on my tail, so I had to break out the pistol and get to blasting. After the zombies were dealt with, it was back to dismantling. It was while dismantling that I realized something about how long it takes to deal with the furniture. The higher value things like beds and wardrobes seem to take less time than the lower value things like tables and chairs. The higher value things like beds and wardrobes take about 12 real-world seconds to dismantle, while the lower value things like chairs and tables took more like 17 real seconds. So in addition to giving less XP, they also wasted more of my one human lifespan. Discovering this made me feel more vindicated in not wasting time on the lower value stuff. On day 297, the helicopter showed up in the late afternoon while I was dismantling. I hung around the area for a bit to see if more zombies would show up, but none did, so I just went home and went to bed. On day 298, I decided to get back into trapping. So I loaded up a bunch of mouse traps and peanut butter and went out to the field behind the apartment to set them. Afterwards, I focused hard on getting the next level electrical as I was getting close. I started doing things like removing the radios from the various cars littering the area and dismantling them. I also went back through the grocery store and found some ovens I had missed. Despite my best efforts, I still managed to come up short, but only barely. The next day I went and checked the mouse traps, finding several mice and one rat. I skinned them and was looking forward to grilled rodent later in the day. Afterwards, I stumbled on a group of zombies that had to be killed. I think they wandered in from the helicopter a few days ago. While dismantling a watch one of them was wearing, I managed to hit level 3 electrical. And I want to get your feedback on something. I'm seriously considering teaching Max the generator book now that he's hit level 3 electrical. I know I had previously said I would wait to do it at level 5, but that just seems impossible. I think I've proven at this point that I can live without the generator. I would just really like to be able to turn some lights on in the base. Let me know what you think. After that, I was back into the neighborhoods to dismantle. The next day, it was raining hard, and while working my way through the various houses, I came across one with a large number of zombies still hanging out inside. I fought through the rain to finish them off, and in the afternoon headed home for a lazy day 300. So that's it for now. Another 50 days down. Only 65 left to go. Poor old Max is hanging in there. I am, as always, the Criminal Archer. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time.